First up is the evocation cantrip Selûne's Dream, with which you can heal one of your allies within touch range for a total of 1d8 hit points plus your spellcasting modifier. Selûne's Dream also has a considerable drawback to consider, being that upon the spell taking effect, it can also put your ally to sleep for a duration of 2 turns, if in the case your ally fails a constitution saving throw. This means to get them back in the fight, you are either going to have to rely on your enemy's stupidity attacking your sleeping ally, or spend an action to go and help or shove them awake. The Selûne's Dream spell can only be cast through the Amulet of Selûne's Chosen, and allows the wearer to do so once per long rest. In order to obtain the Amulet of Selûne's Chosen, you'll have to make your way to the Shattered Sanctum in the Goblins' camp and have a dig through Drorajlin's treasure pile. The next spell on the list is the first level abjuration spell Shar's Aegis, which has the simple yet extremely effective effect of granting you a +2 to your armor class until you long rest. This means that the Shar's Aegis spell is pretty much an exact copy of the Shield of Faith spell available to the Cleric at level 1 and Paladin at level 2. The Shar's Aegis spell is only available by acquiring the Dark Justiciar's half-plate, which is received as a reward for killing Nightsong in Nightsong's prison. What sets Shar's Aegis apart from the Shield of Faith spell, however, is the interaction with the armor set itself, which activates the Shar's protection on the Dark Justiciar's half-plate, resulting in a damage reduction from all attacks by 2, as well as reflecting damage back onto attackers equal to 1d4 necrotic damage. Maybe one of the most memorable spells within BG3 is up next, the level 1 conjuration spell, Find Familiar, the cheeky Quasit variant. And boy is he cheeky, sarcastic and full of personality. This spell essentially works as described, but instead of getting the generic Quasit, you get the interactable pseudo NPC named Shovel, who is capable of turning invisible, lashing out with his claws, as well as incite fear in your enemies. In order to learn how to cast the cheeky Quasit Find Familiar spell, you will need to find the Scroll of Summon Quasit, located within the Apothecary cellar behind a movable bookcase in the casket immediately to your right as you enter the cavernous room. Next up is Elemental Age, which is technically a level 3 transmutation spell but functions more like a weapon buff which requires a level 3 spell slot to activate. Nonetheless, the Elemental Age spell is associated and castable when equipping the Flail of Ages, a rare flail that can be obtained from Flit's Firecracker, purchasable at the Stormshore Armory. And in essence, what the Elemental Age spell does is grant a +1 bonus to all attack rolls and a 1d4 acid, cold or fire damage buff when attacking with the Flail of Ages. The next spell on the list again lets you summon a friendly companion to aid you in your adventures. That is the level 3 conjuration spell, Summon Quothe the Raven. This unique Raven familiar is a ritual spell, meaning that it does not use a spell slot, and is capable of blinding enemies with its beak. The Summon Find Familiar spell, Quothe the Raven, appears to be an Easter egg found within Baldur's Gate 3 and a nod to the Edgar Allan Poe poem named The Raven, as well as the Raven named Quothe in the Discworld novels by Terry Pratchett. The Summon Quothe the Raven spell can only be cast by equipping the Raven Gloves, which is received as a quest reward for completing Punish the Wicked from He Who Was. Before we crack on with the remaining spells on this list, I'm hoping by this point you've at least got something out of this video. If you have, please remember to leave me a like, as this helps out more than you can imagine. And if you're a returning viewer to the channel, please consider subscribing. The first of the necromancy spells to make it on this list is the level 4 spell Beckoning Darkness. Upon casting the Beckoning Darkness spell on a creature, it is cursed to seek sanctuary in brightly lit areas. If a creature fails a charisma save, it receives the Beckoning Darkness condition. If that creature enters a dimly lit or dark area, it takes 2d8 necrotic damage and a further 2d8 necrotic damage for every turn remaining within that area for a total duration of 2 turns. In order to be able to cast the Beckoning Darkness spell, you will require the Dark Justicier's Gauntlets, again which is given as a reward for killing Nightsong in the Nightsong prison during Act 2. Jumping up a couple of levels to level 6 is the Necromancy spell Conjure Shadow Lantern Wraith. As alluded to within the name itself, you will require the Shadow Lantern, and the spell is described as pulling an undead creature from the depths of the Shadow Lantern's depraved magic to join your side in combat. The shadow summoned by this spell has a number of very good resistances, including resistance to all physical damage types, and notably can drain the strength from your enemies, dealing 3d8 necrotic damage and leeching away 3 strength points from the creature. If that creature is lowered to 0 strength during the process of the strength drain action, it instantly dies, without being able to make any death saving throws. To obtain the Shadow Lantern required for casting the spell, you will need to access Balthazar's hidden room in the Moonrise Towers when Gale is in your party. In order to access Balthazar's hidden room, you need to interact with the top right protruding book and insert one of the human hearts from the room into a small ancient altar. Once inside of the hidden room, Gale will need to interact with the ritual circle, combining a dead pixie with a broken moon lantern. One of the 2 level 9 spells castable by PCs within Baldur's Gate 3 is up next in the iconic enchantment spell Power Word Kill. The Power Word Kill spell can only be learned by the Dark Urge after slaying Orin and accepting Baal's gift, and in effect compels a creature with 100 hit points or less to fall down and die instantly. The downside, however, of the Power Word Kill spell is that it can only be used once. So choose wisely who is going to be your target for this one-off spell. Last but not least is another level 9 spell from the Enchantment School of Magic, namely Karsus Compulsion. And unlike Power Word Kill, Karsus Compulsion was specifically made for Baldur's Gate 3. Talking about the spell or explaining it in any level of detail is going to be a really big spoiler, and as such I won't go into any further detail here. Suffice to say, if you're going to be completing Baldur's Gate 3, you will cross paths with the spell. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, please go and check out the Patreon page linked in the description below, and follow along on Twitter at Gaming Analytics, as I do share some content there that doesn't necessarily make it into a full-fledged video. Please remember to leave me a like on your way out and consider subscribing to the channel for more detailed breakdowns on Baldur's Gate 3 and upcoming new releases. And most importantly of all, stay nerdy.